Greetings, Taku Faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to bring you all yet again another Game of Thrones character spotlight right here on Otaku Assemble Weekly. And as always, here to bring you the latest in this week's Game of Thrones character spotlight. And this video is going to be dedicated to once again another dearly departed character, and that is none other than the King in the North himself, Robb Stark. Now, why is Robb one of my favorite characters in this series? Well, Robb made it on my favorites list by default, because anyone who watches my reviews, all of my Game of Thrones viewers, you guys know I rep House Stark till I die. I've been with House Stark since the beginning, and even though they're a losing team right now, I'm sticking with them. I'm staying with them. So yeah, just based off of that alone, Robb immediately made it on my list just because of his position. He's Ned Stark's oldest legitimate son, the heir to House Stark, the Lord of Winterfell. After Ned's death in season 1, he becomes the patriarch of their family. And then, of course, when he decided to succeed from the Iron Throne, he became the King in the North. So yeah, Robb immediately. But here's the thing. It's not just so much his position as what he does with it. What they did with Robb, with his character, I couldn't help but relate to it. I couldn't help but root for him. I mean, I would say that Robb was probably, no, I can't say exclusively, but he is one of the few characters in the show that I think you can still paint as either being black or white, you know, good or evil. Robb was never one of those gray characters. He was a good guy. He was a protagonist. He was one of the main characters we all rallied behind because he was fighting for a noble cause. He was fighting for a just cause. Remember, Robb went to war not to succeed from the Iron Throne, not to declare himself the King of the North. That was not his original intent. He did not go to war until after Ned was already imprisoned, and after Cersei and the Small Council had already taken Sansa into custody, and after Arya had already went missing. So in Robb's mind, his whole thing was, I need to free my father and I need to save my sisters. It's only after Ned's execution that, and even then, Robb was not trying to succeed from the Iron Throne, because he said, no, we need to back up Stannis. He's the next in line. He's the rightful king, so that's who we need to support. And it wasn't until his bannermen decided that they were better off governing themselves in the North that they declared Robb the King in the North. And that's when he decided to succeed. So, and I'm going to talk more on that in a minute. But, so yeah, so Robb, for the most part, he was the physical embodiment of Ned's legacy. Robb tried to act in the manner in which his father would. He tried to do what he thought Ned would do. He tried to be loyal. He tried to be honorable, forthcoming, honest. All those things, just like what his father would have wanted. And whether for good or whether for ill, I guess now that I think about it, I guess you could sort of say that maybe Ned's ghost haunting him eventually led to his downfall, because this was the main problem with Robb, both as an internal conflict and also as an external conflict. Robb was always pulled between opposing forces, always. From the internal side of things, you know, Robb was always conflicted with what was expected of him and what it was that he wanted. And I don't think Robb was mature enough to effectively distinguish between the two. You know what I mean? And that was all, you know, what Robb's romance with his love story. That's what it was all about. Here he made a deal with Walter Frey to cross the twins, and in exchange for that assistance, he would marry one of Walter Frey's daughters. And that's what was expected to him. That was a vow that he made, an oath, a promise that he made, that he was expected to keep. And instead, he deviated from that because he fell in love with someone else. And that is what led to his downfall later on. From the external side of things, Robb was always pulled in one direction or another in regards to the people around him. I mean, you had his bannermen who said, no, let's not follow Stannis, let's succeed from the south. Okay, fine, we'll do that. Then, in terms of the alliances he tried to put into place, he was never taking someone's advice. You know, he's talking about reaching out to Balon Greyjoy. Catelyn said, don't do that. Him succeeding had already pissed off Stannis, so that was another ally that he had sort of unknowingly burned a bridge. And then finally he got around to saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and team up with Renly, but by then it was too late. Stannis had already put his plans into motion. That whole alliance was dead before it was even forged. And then even after he got married, how there was the infighting amongst him and his bannermen, you know, with Lord Stark. Yeah, like they said, he lost the war after he got married because now his own men weren't following him. And look, that's not to say that it was entirely his fault. Of course, he didn't expect Theon to betray him. He didn't expect Catelyn to set Jaime free. And that just caused, you know, more mayhem, unnecessary mayhem, when you take in consideration that we opened up season 2 with Robb winning the war. You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, all of this just, it's not like it all fell to pieces because their cause was written with defeat already. No, they were winning. And all this shit just sort of fell in Robb's lap. And that's when you could tell that the maturity thing did have something to do with it. Robb did not have the wisdom that he needed, the insight and the foresight that he needed in order to make some of the difficult decisions that he had to. But you know, but I mean, you can't help but root for the underdog. Now, granted, I was saying it since season 2 that I always said that my biggest problem with Robb was the fact that he couldn't forge any of those alliances that I mentioned earlier, even with the Renly one. I mean, because look how long it took before they even talked about that. It was halfway through season 2, right before Renly was killed, that Renly decided to finally join up with Robb. So it was like, okay, now this is happening, and then boom, gone. Oh, that offer's off the table. But yeah, for the first half of season 2, that was my main problem with Robb, you know, that he was sort of doing this all on his own. And it's like, dude, there's no way you're going to be able to win this war. You might be winning right now, but there's no way you're going to be able to put it to bed unless you start reaching out to other people. But then again, that was also another flaw for Robb, that there were people that he trusted that always fucked him over in the end. But what can you do? I mean, you can't just... Robb wasn't cynical enough to not trust anyone. That goes against everything he was taught. That goes against what his character was all about. Ned would have never done that. You know what I mean? So it wouldn't have made sense for Robb to do that either. But I mean, I to this day, I still think that Robb was a great character. Definitely fantastically written as the tragic hero. I mean, I don't really think it could have been done any better than that. He's pretty much the Roland of this tale, you know, the tragic hero. But yeah, so all of the reasons I mentioned, that's why Robb was one of my favorite characters, and I was sad to see him go, despite the fact that I was spoiled to his demise after season 1. You know, two years before the Red Wedding even aired, I already knew what was going to happen. So yeah, and that kind kind of pissed me off to no end. But who knows, you know. Anyway, so that's going to wrap up yet again another Game of Thrones character spotlight. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts on the King in the North. And let's see what to keep an eye out for. Well, pretty much this video is going up probably around noon on Sunday, so my Game of Thrones episode review will be up later tonight. And not sure what character I'll tackle next week, because I don't think there are any other deceased characters that I wanted to talk about. I could do a video on Syrio Forel, but I don't think we saw enough of Syrio to really dedicate a full video to. So probably this will be my last video talking about deceased characters. I think after this I'm talking about all current characters. I don't know yet. We'll see. We'll see who I decide. But anyway, so that's going to do it for me. This has been Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. Just a reminder, follow me on the Game of Thrones TV room on Beamly.com. Link, as always, is in the description box below. And until next time, peace.